that she's going to abolish the quota system. Then again, the families of some of the uh, freedom fighters, they went to the court. They asked to like reinstate the decision. So the in June, the High Court did upheld what the prime minister did cancel what the prime minister said, and they again reinstated the quota system, which was there from the past. So the quota system kind of allows the government to distribute 30% of its employment to the families of the freedom fighters who fought in the War of Independence in 1971. And the entire quota system in Bangladesh is like 56% quotas are reserved. And out of the 56, 30% goes to the families of the freedom fighters, and that it has been gradually distributed to people who are challenged, people who are from minority groups, and it goes on. But the students are particularly saying that those 30% quota are not being properly distributed to the families of the freedom fighters, because sometimes if there are less people, then the ruling party supporters are getting some kind of special treatment. And Bangladesh, such government job, getting a government job is quite a challenging task in Bangladesh. And again, like, judiciary itself is very much controlled in the country. So altogether, it kind of has like, and the recent remarks by the prime minister, she kind of compared the protesters with the as opposition forces of the independence.
Which is interesting because she initially, and it's interesting, Saya, because she initially supported this idea that it was time to change a system that probably is a little now outdated.
Yes, she did support it, but again, now she has backtracked and she is saying that the quota system should follow what the court says. In Bangladesh, we know that the court does what she asks.
Yeah.
So if you see the ordeal of the Nobel laureate Professor Yunus, and we are saying that in Bangladesh, the judiciary follows what the government asks.
Correct. Now, tell us a little bit more about, the government. You've been living outside Bangladesh, almost in exile, and quite a strong critic of the government. When you look at 32 million young people without work, it seems as if there are, big problems in Bangladesh economically.
Economically, I can address the first issue now, that why I'm in exile, because in Bangladesh, you're not allowed to hold the government accountable.
Yeah.
If you're a journalist, if you're doing your job correctly, you're not allowed to do your job correctly. Like, I can tell you examples of multiple journalists who had to quit journalism or who had to leave the country to do their work from abroad. And there are many graduates, many PhD degree holders in Bangladesh who are there looking for a job, but there's a serious scarcity of solid or proper employment in the country. The country's GDP might have gone up, but again, if you look at the inflation also have gone drastically high.
Yeah. I mean, and the Prime Minister was just re-elected earlier this year, so is she popular? Do they have policies that are going to improve the situation?
Again, when we talk about her re-election, she was elected in 2008, again, through a acceptable election, I would say. And following that, there was election in 2014, there was again election of 2018, and then this election where there was no opposition party. There were no solid opposition party who were there to contest against the prime minister, because before we had a caretaker system in place in Bangladesh, where there is an independent body of government, who oversees the election. But what has been happening here from the last 14 years is, during all the elections, this government has been in power. They have used the civil administration, the law enforcement agencies, everyone to kind of rig the election and taken the favor, like, for them.
Yeah, so sort of entrench. It's almost this sort of corruption, nepotism. How do you see it resolving itself? Do you think these young protesters are going to keep going out onto the streets, given the way the way police have responded?
Basically, what you see right now is not really the only reason that that they're exploding. The government have kind of created a fiefdom around them. Like, this fiefdom is so massive that they have taken over banks, they have taken over government institutions, they have taken over educational institutions, and it's like their back is at the wall right now. Only the ruling party people are getting a proper job, decent employment, business opportunities. If you're not associated with the ruling party, you don't get anything in Bangladesh. Even the questionnaire for these civil service exams were being sold to a black market. And people associated with the ruling party have been doing that. So, it's a total chaos over there. If you just go over there, it's a total chaos. Like, if you do not speak in favor of the government, if you're a news agency, if you're a news outlet, you cannot operate.
No.
You have to. It's a total dictatorship in there.
Yeah, like a benevolent dictatorship, which is not that benevolent anymore. Good to speak to you, Saya. Appreciate you analysing some of that for us.
Thank you very much.
And private universities indefinitely. It's the reaction to student protests that have left 6 people dead and scores injured. The main university in the capital, Dhaka, was at the center of the violence.
They are relentless in their demands. Thousands of angry university students want an end to what they say are unfair hiring rules for government jobs. The students argue most of these prestigious jobs should be awarded on merit, not through a quota system that favors relatives of war veterans.
The grandchildren of freedom fighters shouldn't get a quota for jobs. That generation has already benefited from the system. We're not saying the quota system should be abolished. We're talking about reforming it.
As rallies intensified, the government deployed paramilitary forces to try to quell the protests. And violent clashes occurred between the protesters and other students supporting the government.
We were rallying, and suddenly members of the ruling party's student wing attacked us. Then we headed towards Vice-Chancellor's house. When we stopped there, they attacked us again from behind. They were hitting our heads in a targeted way.
Some pro-government students accused the demonstrators of vandalism. Hospitals are filled with hundreds of injured students. Some have lost their lives. The students know protesting is risky in a country that's tough on dissent, but they say it's their future that is at stake. Hundreds of thousands of new graduates will be competing for a small number of government jobs. Many see this as unfair as Bangladesh faces high unemployment, inflation and a flailing economy.
We want a sensible reform of the quota system. I'm a student at the Dhaka University. If I don't get any job after 6 years of study, that will create suffering for me and my family. What will the government do then?
Following the protests, the Supreme Court paused its ruling on the recently reinstated quotas. But the students say they will not stop protesting until they are permanently removed.
Well, I'm joined now by journalist Fabiha Munir. She's an independent journalist based in Dhaka. It's good to have you with us. Can you tell us more about this quota system and why are people so angry about it?
You can see that 56% of government jobs in Bangladesh are reserved. So they are not open for general people. This is why students are angry and this is why they are protesting. because the students believe that this quota system is unfair and discriminate against meritorious candidates. So now, the protest against revival of civil service job quota system have continued for more than 2 weeks, and some of the protests have turned deadly.
And so if these jobs, if at least 50% of these jobs are reserved from the beginning, what does that mean then for new graduates in Bangladesh? What are their prospects for finding work?
You see, in Bangladesh, the unemployment rate among graduates has become a significant issue, with nearly 800,000 university graduates are unemployed as of 2022. So, there is a frustration because overall, the combination of a highly competitive job market, especially among the government job and non-governmental job, students are frustrated because of this unemployment and the recession. So they are trying to find a solution, and they are urging for a solution, because you can see that this 56% of this quota systems is resolving a majority of the jobs for designated groups.
Yeah, I'm wondering, what would a solution look like in your opinion? I mean, what's next now? An indefinite closure of the universities, that's certainly not something that is sustainable.
Students are demanding discussion with our government, and they do not want violence, definitely not. And now students are divided in especially in two groups, and this is really frustrating. All the people in Bangladesh, especially the general people of Bangladesh, are worrying about this situation. And the government of Bangladesh, the Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, has urged the protesting students to end their demonstration and return to their studies. But that because of the violence and the situation now on the field is severe, and the students are still protesting and demanding for a solution.
Journalist Fabiha Munir with the latest on the situation there in Bangladesh.
Success in Bangladesh. Police fired tear gas and charged with batons after fighting broke out between rival groups near Dhaka on Monday. Students have been protesting for 2 weeks, calling for an end to what they say are discriminatory quotas for public service jobs. They say it favours supporters of the ruling party and want a merit-based system instead. Well, for more, we're joined from Dhaka by Tanvir Chowdhury. And Tanvir, so calls for a more meritocratic system in Bangladesh. What's the latest on the protests?
Well, where you see right behind me is the Dhaka University campus. This area was a stage for violence yesterday all day long. Now it's quiet. It's guarded by the pro-ruling party student wings with sticks and helmets. They're in the whole area. So the students protesting for the quotas are not entering this area to avoid clashes, but they're in different parts of the city. Now even the private university students from different parts of the city and across the country have joined in protest, and they're blocking intersection in different parts of the city. Literally the whole city is paralyzed. It's very tense from the violence of last night, which stayed till almost 1 p.m. this morning. There was violence in several universities across the country. Now, the government saying they're not going to back down just because they're protesting. There was a word used by the Prime Minister saying that those who are not supporting the pro-liberation forces are essentially collaborators of the Pakistan army. That really triggered off the students who have been going out in masses on early morning on Monday. And that's thousands of students all across the country came out saying, if we are called collaborator, then everybody is collaborator. That became the theme. And then following in the morning, there were a lot of clashes in the Dhaka University and several other universities across the country where ruling party students attacked. According to the pro-quota students, were attacked by them. Hundreds of students were attacked. And even in the Dhaka University Medical College, they were attacked inside the hospital. So things are very critical. And the students said they're not going to back down unless this quota reform takes place. The government said it's up to the court to decide eventually. The code says that the government can change and make amendments to it, but they'll have to wait about a month, which court will have a hearing and give a different decision. But the city is tense. A lot of protests going on, not right behind me, but across the city. Right here, it's come, not yesterday though. So we'll have to see how things fall out within the day.
Yeah, we will indeed, Tanvir. Many thanks. I'm sure we'll keep an eye on how things